By 1954, over half of American homes contain a television set.
Life as happy as I can be.
Creating an enormous new audience for advertising.
Two, one, and we're on the air.
I dreamed I went riding in my very favorite convertible with my very favorite boyfriend.
Chevy's Bel Air convertible is released in 1953. With its iconic curved windshield and chrome interiors, it soon becomes a bestseller. Americans are simply car crazy. These Futura cars are on display in New York in 1956. Americans now own over 3/4 of the world's automobiles. They help transform the nation. The New Jersey Turnpike is one of America's first 4-lane highways. All 118 miles of it are built in just 23 months, opening in 1952.
The New Jersey Turnpike can face any new trials by traffic with confidence that it has paved the way to a new age in road building.
The road is designed with as few curves as possible and lanes 2 feet wider than usual to allow speeds of up to 75 miles per hour. This high-speed road changes the face of American transportation.
The pressing need today is to extend the turnpike from the state of New Jersey throughout the country in a national network of superhighways built speed and comfort.
President Eisenhower champions plans to spend $27 billion on 40,000 miles of new interstate highways that will take 35 years to complete. The network continues to expand today. This vast new road network enables people to drive further and faster than ever before. But these roads may also be good for military use. Many overpasses are 17 feet high, which allows clearance for nuclear missile transporters. Eisenhower is preparing America for a foreign attack. But danger also looms from a bitter battle here at home over civil rights. In 1954, in the South, racial segregation is still mandated by law. Blacks must use separate facilities, which whites say are still equal. But African Americans, in fact, are treated as second-class citizens. In Kansas, the families of 20 black school children are fighting a class action lawsuit against the Topeka Board of Education's segregated schools. They take their battle to the Supreme Court. Prominent black attorney Thurgood Marshall speaks for the families.
We believe that the proper place for the issue of segregation and anything connected with it is in a court.
On May 17, 1954, they win the case. The Supreme Court outlaws segregation in schools. The legal underpinnings of racism are swept away. But this victory for the civil rights movement infuriates a group determined to uphold white supremacy, the Ku Klux Klan.
I, for one, under God, will die before I'll yield 1 inch to that kind of a movement.
Over the next 3 years, more than 15 African-American homes will be bombed in racist attacks. And in 1955, an ugly racial incident in the South shocks the nation. 14-year-old Emmett Till from Chicago is visiting relatives in Money, Mississippi. On August 24th, a 21-year-old white woman, Carolyn Bryant, accuses Emmett of whistling at her. It might not have meant much in Chicago, but in Mississippi, there is rage. Two white men kidnap Emmett. They take him to a riverbank where he is beaten, shot, and killed. September 3rd, 1955, Chicago. Emmett's mother, Mamie, holds his funeral.
If the death of my son can mean something to the other unfortunate people all over the world, then for him to have died a hero would mean more to me than for him just to have died.
It takes 3 days for all who have come to make their way through the church. Mamie Till insists that Emmett's coffin remain open. She wants the world to see just what was done to her son. One in every 5 mourners, Mamie is told, needs help to leave the building. The shocking scenes are shown on national television. And 9 days later, Emmett's beaten face is shown in the African American press, in Jet magazine and the Chicago Defender newspaper. The image horrifies America. September 19th, Sumner, Mississippi. The 2 men accused of murdering Emmett are Carolyn Bryant's husband, Roy, and his friend, J.W. Milam. The trial is covered on national television. For the first time, millions of Americans will see Southern justice for themselves. The trial lasts for only 5 days. The all-white jury deliberates for 67 minutes. And finds the men not guilty. Four months later, in a Look magazine interview for which they are paid $4,000, Bryant and Milam both admit to the murder. But the double jeopardy rule means they cannot be tried again. They are never punished for their crime. "100 days after Emmett Till's murder, 42-year-old Rosa Parks is riding in the black section of a bus in Montgomery, Alabama, when a white man boards. All the white seats are taken.
The driver demanded that I give this seat up for a white man. I didn't feel that I was being treated as a human being. I refused to give up this seat. I said no, and I wouldn't give it up.
Parks says later, "I thought of Emmett Till. I just couldn't move." She is arrested, found guilty of violating segregation laws, and fined $10. Her defiant action inspires black people to protest segregation on the buses by refusing to ride them. Many blacks in Montgomery walk miles to work each day. Images of empty buses and peaceful protesters on national TV recruit many to the cause of equal rights. The bus boycott continues for more than a year. The Montgomery bus lines face bankruptcy. The leaders of the protest also take their battle to the courts. On November 13, 1956, the U.S. Supreme Court rules that segregation on Alabama buses is unconstitutional. But for the civil rights movement, the struggle is far from over.
And here he is in person, Alan Freed.
Hello, everybody. How y'all? Welcome to our Jubilee of Stars.
Cleveland radio DJ Alan Freed rockets to fame and movie stardom by playing rhythm and blues, traditionally African-American music. Freed popularizes a name for this new sound: rock and roll.
Now, nail down the roof, gang, because here's a new act that can blow it right up.
Freed brings rock and roll to a young white audience. But to make the big bucks, music producers want a white face to front the new African-American sound. In 1954, producer Sam Phillips introduces a 19-year-old singer from Tupelo, Mississippi. His name is Elvis Presley. By 1956, his Heartbreak Hotel sells 1 million records and stays at #1 for 7 weeks. The power of rock and roll becomes unstoppable. Ed Sullivan hosts the most popular show on television. His musical taste, middle of the road.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Your Mercury dealer.
But on September 9th, 1956, he puts rock and roll's biggest new face in front of America.
#1 TV variety show, starring the nationally syndicated columnist of the New York Daily News, Ed Sullivan.
Elvis Presley simply cannot be denied. This is the first time this footage has ever been seen in color.
Thank you, Mr. Lawton. Ladies and gentlemen. Well, this is probably the greatest honor that I've ever had in my life. There's not much I can say except it really makes you feel good.
This is the most watched show of the decade, bringing in 60 million viewers. The popularity of Elvis and rock and roll explodes. The new teenage music upsets many American parents. But some teenagers are rebelling in a more idealistic way, daring to confront bigotry and violence. It's 1957, 3 years since the Supreme Court ordered that black and white students should be taught together. But in the South, the vast majority of schools are still segregated. In the summer of 1957, the NAACP selects 9 black students to enroll at the all-white Central High School in Little Rock, Arkansas. On September 4th, the start of the school semester, segregationist Governor Orville Faubus stations the Arkansas National Guard outside the high school to stop the 9 students from entering. The guardsmen are joined by an angry mob of white parents and students. Eight black students approach the school together. The guardsmen push them back. The 9th student, Elizabeth Eckford, unaware of the others' plans, arrives later and alone. She is followed by an angry crowd. As she retreats, Will Counts, a A photographer for the Arkansas Democrat newspaper takes these iconic photographs. Six days later, Governor Faubus reiterates his refusal to integrate the school.
If the federal government moves into Arkansas by force or in any other manner, then we will have lost our last right of local self-government.
Angry protests continue outside Central High School.
If blood has been shed, my conscience will be clear, but I will weep for my people.
For 3 weeks, the 9 students stay at home. Going to school is too dangerous. The scenes of racist abuse continue and are seen around the world. By September 24th, President Eisenhower has seen enough.
Mob rule can not be allowed to override the decisions of our courts.
Eisenhower federalizes the Arkansas National Guard, taking control away from the governor. And that evening, the president sends 1,200 paratroopers from the Army's 101st Airborne Division to Little Rock. At 7 the next morning, the 9 students are transported to Central High School in an Army vehicle. The mob is held back, and black and white Little Rock students go to school together for the first time, escorted by U.S. soldiers. For their safety, the 9 students are accompanied by troops every day for the rest of the school year. It is a huge victory for the civil rights movement, but it is short-lived. A year later, Governor Faubus, with the voters' support, closes all public high schools in Little Rock.
I wouldn't mind going to school with them, but if you go to school with them, then they're going to start coming to our dances and things like that, and I wouldn't want that.
I see. How do you feel?
I definitely do not want to go to school to integrated classes, and I think...
You don't want to go to an integrated school
sir,
at all?
I do not, and I'd much rather school be closed and forget my education for 2 or 3 months.
Though it takes until 1959, the high schools do reopen for black and white students together.